Today on Rebel Then King, we are going to compare a Guardian with the Thaumaturge Dedication with a Thaumaturge with the Guardian Dedication. Welcome, adventurers. Here I am continuing to think about my next build for an upcoming campaign. And thank you to Max Magnus for a comment on my last video about rather than going Guardian or Thaumaturge and adding the Champion Dedication, why don't I make a Thaumaturge with the Guardian Dedication? So I decided to take a look at both of these build options, and I'm going to start with the Guardian with the Thaumaturge Dedication, and spoiler alert, I don't think it works out quite as well as the Thaumaturge with the Guardian Dedication. I'm keeping a lot of the build pretty much the same from my last video. So it is still a Tanuki, that's a farmhand, and it's a Guardian. I am going with the shove-based Guardian approach, starting with the class feat at level 1, Punishing Shove. This allows you to do some damage on your shoves. So it is important to be trained in athletics. I'm going to level that up to expert. I have a +4 strength. I'm going +3 constitution, and I do need +2 charisma in order to pick up that Thaumaturge Dedication. I am equipping myself with the Warhammer and breastplate with armored skirt. So thank you to Oatstealer for showing me how that actually works in Path Builder so that I can see my good 18 AC there. And I think I am going to go with the heavy Rondash shield, slightly less armor class, but more hit points, which is good to combine with shield block. Though, as a Guardian, you might be using your intercept attack reaction, so maybe not shield blocking as much, and therefore maybe I should go with the steel shield, which has slightly fewer hit points, but a +2 armor class when raised. So anyway, other features and things as I level up. Still going to go with Shielding Taunt. I love this feat. And now I'm picking up the Thaumaturge Dedication rather than Champion. This does give us Glimpse Vulnerability. You glimpse a hidden vulnerability and then strengthen it to aid you. Select a creature you can see. Until you glimpse vulnerability again, the target gains weakness 2 against your unarmed weapon strikes. And this is once per round. Though it is until you glimpse vulnerability again, so it would continue from between round to round, if I'm reading that correctly. That's pretty decent. The thing is, and why it isn't quite perfect maybe for this build, is that specifically says weapon strikes, capital S strike, only the strike action, which means it wouldn't work with Punishing Shove, which is kind of my go-to. Now, I'll still be making strikes with this build for sure, so that could be helpful. It's just, if I'm leaning more into, taunting and shoving, does this extra action for a little bit extra damage only on strikes help out all that much? Yes, but is it enough? Maybe not. As we level up, I'm going to go with Aggressive Block because, well, that's what I went with before. And if I am leaning into shield usage and shoving, which I am, that's going to be perfect. And here is where we get to pick another Thaumaturge Dedication feat. And this is where I do start to struggle a little bit. So our options at level 4 is basic Thaumaturgy. You gain a 1st or 2nd level Thaumaturge feat of your choice. Okay. I don't think that the Thaumaturge feats are quite as good as the Guardian feats. So let's go through the list here briefly. Ammunition Thaumaturge, not going to be helpful. I'm not using a ranged weapon. Call Implements, I'm going to have... Oh, and I should have mentioned earlier, I am going with the shield implement here. I'm going to have a shield, so that doesn't really help. It's going to be with me all the time. Diverse Lore, sure. We'll see that actually on my other build, but it's not really the flavor of this one. Divine Disharmony, I like this. It's another, debuff, but it is another action. Familiar, not really interested. Haunt Ingenuity, okay. Root to Life, a little stabilizing, I guess. Scroll thaumaturgy, using scrolls, but, I have stuff in both hands always, so not super useful in combat. I'm sure I'd be with spellcasters, so they can just pick up the scrolls. Talisman Esoterica is probably what I'm going to go with here. Make some talismans and fix them to armor. That could be super helpful. And then Turn Away Misfortune, although it's good, is a reaction. As a Guardian, I don't need more reactions. I already have Intercept Attack and Shield Block. Sure, sometimes it is nice to just keep piling up the reactions, so you pretty much have one every single turn, but it's not quite as helpful when you already have two. So I guess Talisman Esoterica it is. And that kind of continues. I want to just show you briefly at level 6, I can either pick up more Thaumaturge feats, or I can go with Implement Initiate. You gain your Implement's Initiate benefit. Okay. But the thing is, the Shield benefit, the Shield Initiate benefit, isn't super helpful for a Guardian who wants their shield to always be usable as a shield. If your shield implement would be reduced to 0 hit points, it's instead reduced to 1. Its circumstance bonus AC when you raise a shield is reduced by 1. This can't be reduced below 0. So I guess that is still helpful. Though that does make me think I should go with the steel shield for sure. And you can't shield block with your shield implement until it loses. Okay, so it's like I lose access to shield block if it's broken still. This initiate benefit does grant the shield block feat at level 6, but remember, as a Guardian, I picked it up at level 1. So maybe not the most helpful way to build out and improve this Guardian. And that leads me to the Thaumaturge with the Guardian Dedication, which I have to say is working out quite well. This is very similar to the previous Thaumaturge with the Champion Dedication. It is still a Tanuki, Pilgrim, Thaumaturge. I'm going with the same heritage and ancestry feats, though I am sort of changing my class feat focus. I am going with a shield implement Thaumaturge who is more focused on self-protection. I originally was thinking very team protection, but honestly, I've already played 2 team protection focused builds in a Protective Wards Wizard and a Wood Kineticist using Timber Sentinel a lot. So having that Guardian taunt, get in there, raise a shield, tank ability is something that's going to be pretty fun. And then I decided for a secondary way of supporting, I'm going to go very heavy on lore and recall knowledge with this build. It is going to be armed with a Warhammer again. I am giving this build a breastplate at level 1. Though I have a +3 strength and I meet the strength requirements, I do not have any dex, so therefore I only have a 17 armor class. I cannot add an armored skirt because that does increase the medium breastplate to a heavy armor, and the Thaumaturge does not have heavy armor training. So stuck with the 17 AC at level 1. But let's talk about how much the Guardian dedication helps out this build and all of the other cool things I can do as I level up. So again, I am using the shield implement here. I am picking diverse lore at level 1, setting up my ability to be a recall knowledge expert. You can take a -2 penalty to your check to recall knowledge with esoteric lore to recall knowledge about any topic. So I've got this pretty strong esoteric lore, being a Thaumaturge, that's what they do. And even though I don't have skill training all across the board, I can still use esoteric lore to make a check for those other items, or these other. So as an example here, Arcana. I am trained. I have a +3. But if I use my +7 esoteric lore with a -2 penalty, that's a +5. That is better than the +3 that I have in Arcana. So at level 2, this build really starts to come to life. I'm going to go with Esoteric Warden. When you succeed at your check to exploit vulnerability, you gain a +1 status bonus to your AC against the creature's next attack and a +1 status bonus to your next saving throw, and that can be +2 if it was a critical success on that check. I'm going to combine this with the Guardian Dedication. This is going to give me heavy armor training. right? So I'm going to be at max armor then. If you were already trained in light armor and medium armor, you gain training in heavy armor as well. Excellent. You can use the taunt action as well. You gain taunt. No lighter version or secondary version or, debuffed version of it. It is just taunt. That is incredible. So now I have shield block, a shield which can still be used and gain a armor class bonus. I did go with steel shield, which has a +2 normally. Even if it is broken due to being a shield implement thaumaturge, I can still raise that shield for a +1 at least circumstance bonus to my AC. Combine that with my esoteric warden, which will give a status bonus to my AC, and then I can taunt to have a creature come at me. This sets up a great action cycle where I can exploit vulnerability, I can taunt, and then I can raise my shield. Then on my next turn, I can strike, I can raise a shield, I can taunt again, I can strike, taunt, raise shield. This is going to work out so well. As I level up, I kind of am thinking for instructive strike for my thaumaturge feat. Going with the basic defender archetype class feat, which will give me an extra guardian feat. And I'm thinking of going with shielding taunt for that because that gives me a taunt plus raising my shield for a single action. So now at level 4, my action economy is just going to be like exploit vulnerability, shielding taunt, and strike, because my shield is up and I've taunted with shielding taunt. That is just fantastic synergy for what this character is meant to do. And then as far as my kind of secondary focus here with unmistakable lore, when you recall knowledge using any lore subcategory in which you're trained, if you roll a critical failure, you get a failure instead. So I kind of can't critically fail at a lore check about anything because of my combination of esoteric lore and unmistakable lore. As I level up further, I'm going to pick up a weapon implement. So now I do have a reactive strike. Remember, this was difficult to remember, but at 5th level, when you exploit vulnerability, this is part of the shield implement, you can also raise a shield as a free action. So now I can exploit plus raise a shield, strike, taunt, although I already had shielding taunt, so I guess, that's not a big difference, but it does mean, typo on taunt, tong, it gives me more flexibility in using my shield and using my taunts. I might not want to taunt in a turn, so I can still at least exploit vulnerability plus raise a shield and then strike twice or something like that. Just tons of action economy compression with these abilities. And then as I level up even further, fantastic feats of the Guardian can go with aggressive block. You use your shield. This is when you shield block. You use your shield to push the triggering creature, either automatically shoving it 5 feet or causing it to become off guard until the start of your next turn. So leaning even more into being annoying, upfront, taunting, raising your shield, and then being able to react when someone either doesn't take the taunt, because remember, with this weapon implement, if I'm standing in front of something and I taunt it and it decides, no, I'm not going to do that, and moves, I get to reactive strike it. And it's also off guard because it chose not to attack me. That is fantastic. Just everything's working together there. And then I've got shield block at level 1 combined with aggressive block. I've got 2 different feats that allow me to raise my shield and take another action at the same time. This build is working out so well. And this has led me to think whether the Guardian or the Thaumaturge Dedication is stronger. And even though I think both classes are great in their own different ways, I think that the Guardian Dedication is a much better option than the Thaumaturge. The Guardian Dedication is going to give you that armor training and taunt, a great ability, whereas the Thaumaturge Dedication gives you glimpse vulnerability, which is good, but not great. And the main thing is, I think that the Thaumaturge feats are only so-so. So if you're taking that Thaumaturge Dedication, you get some okay feats with it, whereas every Guardian feat is amazing. So by taking the Guardian Dedication, you are giving yourself a whole well, a deep well of amazing feats to choose from. Another small problem I have kind of thought about with the Guardian class, even though I still like it a lot. It is a great tank. It is survivable. It has 12 hit points per level. I am giving my build a bunch of constitution. It has the Guardian's armor to mitigate damage. It has shield block. The thing is, it's still going to take damage. It will. It'll probably stay standing due to damage mitigation and so many hit points. But hit points are a refillable resource, but healing isn't necessarily so. Healing, at the very least, will take time. And the thing is, if you are taking, let's say, 16, 18 points of damage and just barely hanging on every combat at level 1, you are going to blow through your team's healing abilities like crazy. I don't know that that is going to happen so much with the Thaumaturge build, which does have fewer hit points, but is going to focus more on self-shield block and a lot of damage mitigation compared to Intercept Attack, where you are basically taking the full brunt of damage that an enemy is dishing out. The one problem I do have with the Thaumaturge build, though, I better have someone who is trained in crafting to repair my shield in between combats. I don't want to just shield block a bunch and then walk around with a broken shield for the rest of the adventuring day. So please, someone pick, an inventor or alchemist and help me out here. But I think that is all for these two builds. Again, leave me some comments. Let me know how they're looking. Clearly, the comments left on the last video helped out a lot. So big thanks to everyone who had something to say about these builds. This is my 4th video on this topic. I think I'm almost finally done picking out my next character. Catch you next time, adventurers.